latest happening in Mali, where a bus explosion has been reported killing some 11 people and injuring 53 others. Let's speak to Global Affairs Analyst Kach Onanuju, who joins us live from Abuja. Well, this particular incident we're told happened when a bus hit an explosive device. And this is not the first time it's happening in Mali. As a matter of fact, the United Nations in Mali says it's recorded some 72 occurrences like these as of August this year. How worrisome is this development, and how much attention will you say it's getting on the continent?
Well, I would say it is very worrisome. This crisis has dragged on for right now close to a decade. I blame the leaders in West Africa who have not been very sincere about dealing with the Malian crisis. It started, and when we got the peace agreement in 2015, if the leaders, and that's why me here in Nigeria, I kept saying the right thing would have been for leaders like President Buhari to team up with other leaders in the sub-region to implement the 2015 peace agreement, instead of trying to bring the refugees and resettle them across Nigeria. The right thing is try to put them back there. This crisis has been on since in central Mali, and the leaders in the sub-region think it's a Malian thing. Because they've not been able to resolve it and resettle the refugees back in central Mali, that's why the refugees are spread around the sub-region and have become a security problem, as you can see here in Nigeria, by the Bororo Fulani terrorists. So I think the leaders need to come together and be able to see the Malian crisis in central Mali as a West African crisis, not as a Malian crisis. And that's why this has lingered this long.
We saw some responses from ECOWAS, particularly aftermath the coup d'etat last year, which I believe is the third in the past 10 years in that country. It wouldn't seem that military intervention has resolved this crisis in Mali. What do you think?
No, the military interventions are also power plays by the various ethnicities. And that's why you saw when it seemed like President Goodluck Jonathan, who was an envoy, going there separately and as if he was going to make some breakthrough, particular set of the military struck to be able to undermine whatever it is that they thought he was going to achieve. That's why I thought the leaders of the sub-region should have worked together as one to prevent this crisis for now getting too close to a decade. Right from Mopti in central Mali, it is now disturbing all of us in the sub-region. So I blame the leaders of the ECOWAS, not just the leaders in Mali. Because as we warned earlier, the Malian crisis was like a very dangerous dam. If you don't let that dam get controlled, it will burst. And when it bursts, it will flood the entire sub-region. And that's why it is doing that right now, security-wise. I believe we should not give up hope. We should continue to work to find a way to implement the 2015 peace agreement, return the refugees from wherever they are back to their ancestral homes in central Mali, so that the other countries in West Africa can also have peace. As you can see in Nigeria here, the refugees are asking for land. And I believe nobody will give them the land. And you have seen the different schemes that President Buhari has tried to implement in Nigeria as a strategy to find land. Nobody will give you land for you to resettle people, especially if nobody has enough land. Africans are very emotionally attached to land. It was land in Mali. It's also land that those refugees who are spreading across the sub-region are demanding wherever they go to. That's why you're seeing in Kaduna State, the sudden ethnic cleansings for ancestral land, the problems in Plateau State, the problem in Benue State. Those people demanding for land are not Nigerians, because if they are, wherever they come from, their local governments will have land to resettle them. And that's why we're saying, try to resolve the crisis back at home so that the dam doesn't burst to now become a flood in countries like Nigeria. That's the right way to go.
Do you think that organizations like ECOWAS and the African Union have what it takes to drive this continental response that you're talking about?
Yes, they do. They do. The most important thing the leaders need is honesty. Just as you say, once you're not honest about this thing, then you cannot gain the trust of those you're talking to. When you're honest about resolving a problem, you will look, we've done this before, even in Nigeria in 1974, when Lebanon was invaded, when Israel invaded East Lebanon. We came here in Nigeria and we said, there's a problem. Lebanese are here. They are refugees. We camp some of them in Apapa, put some of them in Kanu. They were treated honestly as refugees. And when there was a resolution of the crisis in Lebanon, some of them went home, while some stayed back in Nigeria. But when you don't want to deal with it honestly, you start to pretend as if it was an agricultural problem, and you allow some facade like farmers' headers crisis, which actually doesn't exist there. No, it was all just a plot to gain land and resettle the refugees. So when our own president was not sincere about it, the problem lingered. And today they are talking about a water bill. It's the same thing, looking for land to resettle refugees. But if you get the land, you must have water, because land without water, they would not stay. And that's why you're looking for them in Nigeria, looking for different kinds of schemes to get land. As they said, Kach Onanuju, we said no. They said grazing reserve, we said no. They said Ruga, we said no. They said, what was it, a grazing route, we said no. They were all looking for land. These were all schemes to get land. Now, what's the new game? It's talking about the water bill. The water bill weighs something like 6 kilometers of embarking land that will upturn the Land Use Act, seize large swaths of Lagos, Ondo, large swaths of Bayelsa, Rivers, large swaths of places like Benue, Taraba. No, those things are not going to work. The leaders need to be sincere, not masking issues about refugees running away from Mopsi in central Mali as if it was an agricultural problem in Nigeria. It's not. That's why I said leaders need to be honest about what they're doing. When you're not honest, there is no way your partners will be able to work with you towards achieving this particular crisis. The leaders in West Africa need to work together with leaders like President Buhari to resolve this problem and return these refugees back to central Mali, and not try to gain ancestral land by force across the sub-region to resettle them. Africans are historically very emotionally attached to land. They will not give. So resolve the peace in Mali, and then let the Bororos go back to Mali and resettle back home. There is nobody that will give you land anywhere in West Africa.
Well, we'll have to count on the political will of the African leadership to be able to execute all of these things that you've talked about. Global Affairs Analyst Kach Onanuju, thank you for speaking to us on
Thank you for having me.